And, Twitter, I woke up today and Twitter is not gone. It is here. So why not have a space on one of my favorite topics, marketing in Web3 or 2.5, or the big question, how are we going to talk to people about the innovations that are coming to this space, as far as marketing? So I just would love to start this conversation off by just kind of inviting our panel here to just give us a 1 or 2 minute intro on who you are and a little bit of background. So, Kaylee, let's start with you.
Of course. I'm already sweating. I'm just kidding. I'm not, though. I really am sweating. But I'm Kaylee. I've been in this space for a year. I helped and help brands see the vision, a Web2 brand see the vision in Web3, and then also used to...
Sorry.
It's okay. I love it. When I started last October, I used to hold spaces for a really long time, just helping one artists see the vision of Pinterest and other marketing tools to make their lives easier. So after that, I just started doing consultations, and now I am working with Innova. I don't know why I said that like as a question. I just feel like I always pronounce it wrong. But yeah, it's a badass group of individuals in Web3 trying to bridge the gap.
Amazing. Innovo, could you spell it?
It's like Innova, but the ending is a little different. So it's like innovation, but it's like, with a little twist.
Got it. Amazing. Well, thank you for being here. Can't wait to chop it up. Lava Lisa, who I had the privilege of meeting in our Film 3 circuit. So I'm privileged to get to talk to you a lot. Can you just give us a quick intro on your background?
You bet. It might sound the same as last time we talked, but hey, let's do it. So I also came to the space about a year and a half ago, supporting projects specific to Film 3, hyper-focused on all things spaces. I host my own every Wednesday at 9 a.m. PST. My guests are mixed between Web 2 and Web 3 creators. I'm obsessed with onboarding, which is why I'm excited about the space, putting creators in the spotlight and understanding how spaces contribute to creator success. I'm doing some interesting things here on the back end, some data analysis and developing some data points that I think are going to be incredibly helpful for brands moving forward. Most notable this month, I had guest Dan Myrick, director of the Blair Witch Project. You may have heard of that movie. He had zero knowledge of Web3 or the vision of Web3. He didn't understand decentralized filmmaking. No one had ever explained it to him, and he'd never been on a Twitter space. So I was excited that the Lava Lisa space was his first. Very exciting. I was able to onboard him, and now our entire community, both Film 3 and everybody else, can benefit from his knowledge and experience and in his network. The Lava Lisa space being his first space, I kind of said that again, but kind of aligns with my mission, which is really connecting Web 2 and Web 3 creators and resources, building a stronger community and a better future.
Amazing. I mean, that's a key component to this whole thing is onboarding people. I was just on a call with my friend Johnny. Johnny, thanks for being here. And it was based around talking with a huge brand, but a lot of the conversation was devoted to talking about how deep and dark and how dreary things are in our little world, but there's this big world out there that don't know really what's going on, and for this whole thing to work, we need to talk to those people, and in a positive way at that. So thank you, Lisa. I love jamming with you, love your vibe, so thanks for being here. Trip.
Hey, what's going on? Well, it's nice to meet y'all. My name is Trip. I've been working in the Web3 area over the last year. And then prior to that, I was working mainly in the esports and gaming scene. So a lot of influencer marketing, a lot of just social media management and any kind of campaigns to help grow a lot of startups or brands trying to, generate their own community and personality online, and kind of a lot of organizational stuff. So that's my background. I'm excited to learn more about you all, and thank you to Kaylee for tossing me the invite to this space. So I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. And I'm sure you're going to have a lot of great little nuggets and anecdotes to share. John or Alex, I don't know if you want to quickly introduce yourself, but you guys are full of value as well.
Yeah, sure. So I was brought in to help with the Gauss kind of big time strategy looking longer term, figuring out how to operationalize that and think about developing brand partnerships to onboard them into our ecosystem and help them with, help with the vetting of the curation process all the way through the, launch of a token.
Hi, my name is Alex. I guess I'm a creator in the Web3 space, and if you go on the Gauss YouTube channel, I'm one of the people speaking on there. And yeah, that's who I am. I'm sorry, apologies earlier. I just found out there's a soundboard on my phone. Just got a new phone, so I was just pressing around that. So yeah, my apologies.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a voice on right now too.
It sounds like, can I call someone? It sounds like you fell down a well and you need a really long rope and a rescue team.
I have no idea what's going on. So I'm figuring this out right now.
Sounds better now.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Twitter Spaces without any of that. So thank you, everyone. And it's really pumped to start this. So just for some context, yeah, we do have some members of the Gauss team here. So in a nutshell, what Gauss is, we'd like to put ourselves as the blockchain for the brand. So what Gauss is, it just launched. It's a layer one blockchain that is curated, that is permissioned. So there's a thorough vetting process that people go through in order to launch on it, making it safe for influencers, brands, artists to invite their communities and launch token economies on this curated place, hopefully leaving it safer than the decentralized platforms that we're used to. So and I don't think there's a topic that is more pertinent to what we're trying to do, bringing brands to the blockchain. So that's the conversation I want to have. And my first question is, now anyone that wants to just jump in, feel free. It's an open format here. First of all, what is the status of traditional marketing in this space? And so I'll leave it up to anyone. Let me reframe that actually. Is traditional marketing dead as we know it?
I'm glad to jump in. I'd say no. I think that there are plenty of Web2 marketing strategies that can apply here. We just have to be delicate with how we apply them.
And Kaylee, as you
Sorry.
as you with your Web 2.5 and Web 2.5, forgive me if I overuse it, is just one of my favorite terms because I think that's just where we are. I think people, we live in these Web 3 kind of ecosystems, and we just get so bogged down with NFTs and the blockchain, we forget about the masses. And that's where I think, to Lisa's point, Web 2.5 comes in. So Kaylee, where do you sit on that? Where do you see that in terms of where we are in marketing right now, this kind of in between moment of transition?
Well, like with anything, like it's an evolution of technology. So anybody and everybody wants to be part of it because we're biologically designed to like want to be a part of something, and a community. So I feel like Web 2 has been trying to adapt this for a hot minute, but because it's all been hype projects and fake rug pulls, that is where we've missed the mark. But no one wanted to get into Web 2 last year because it was like Discord, Twitter, die. And so that was really hard to get over. But like 2.5, I look at it as like, so airdrops. Now you can use, like, instead of email marketing, you can do airdrops. It's the same thing. And you can target market specific people because of their wallets, which is insane. So I think it's going to be Web 2 marketing, like Pinterest. I don't know why nobody uses it. It's not a like hub, it's a search engine. And it's like SEO gold magic. for anything. So just using it in like that aspect is amazing. And then I feel like email marketing is never going to be dead, but it's going to go to like airdrops because everyone and their mom is going to probably have a wallet.
Did anybody here listen to the Twitter space with Elon Musk where it was like 100,000+ people? Was anybody here for that? I was there.
Yeah.
I was there for that.
That was
My girlfriend had to
comical.
pull me from the computer. I mean, I couldn't stop listening to it. I mean, it was, and one thing that Elon Musk talked about with Twitter specifically is the use of filters similar to how your email has filters, right? So talking spam, primary, and then different levels of filters, right? And he talked about including that into Twitter. And I think that's just an interesting topic on systems that have filters and what you actually do and don't receive, and what is out there. And again, that goes also back to, traditional marketing with, email campaigns. And, I've been in this space long enough to like really understand Web3. And obviously there's so many different areas. I mean, if we're talking about, are we talking about NFTs? Are we talking about crypto? And obviously Web3 is so big. But one thing I've learned being on Twitter especially is everyone is here to get something back. And they want something of value. And people expect a quick build in value of some form. If it's, their NFT floor or whatever it may be. So I don't know. I just think I think a lot of people here are looking for something of value or something to really change their life to some extent. And I think a lot of older people are taking time to learn it. And also this place has, again, been a generally scary place for a lot of people because a lot of people constantly hear, what they only hear about? The bad moments, because that's what gets through the general media, right? Bitcoin down at the lowest, it's, whatever. And then, people hear about these monkey NFTs. It's like, I think there's a lot of warming up that still needs to happen with Web3, and in blockchain, because I don't think there's enough education to really help teach people a simple way to learn, right? Like, here's the 10-step program in 20 minutes or whatever, right? And then also, I just think people are really looking for value. So as a Web2 brand, you really need to show why you are valuable and really explain, because that's what people are looking for. There's utility, roadmaps and all that nonsense. So that's my rant. Whoever's next.
There's so much there. And
Yeah.
to your point, there is such a heavy education onboarding process that even in the best situations takes time, takes patience from both parties, the brand or the company putting it out there, and then the consumer that wants to go through the steps or is incentivized to take the steps to really engage and learn. Garth, I want to intro non-fungible Garth there, who is an NFT strategist for Vayner3, a company that is doing exactly what we're talking about, helping onboard the Web2 brands to the Web3 world. So Garth, first of all, welcome, and then I'll throw you a question right away.
Yo, what's up? Thanks for doxing me. Just kidding.
So good to connect with you, brother.
Yeah, I know we've been trying to hook up for a while, so apologies. Things get busy sometimes. So appreciate you hitting me up today.
Of course. So Trip just mentioned a whole bunch of obstacles and roadblocks for brands to come on into this space. In your experience, like what's and I know we have the obvious ones like security, but what are some of the big obstacles that brands have when they're kind of taking that step either into Web 2.5 or that big leap into Web 3 marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, holding securities is one of the things. And I think that, brands have spent the better part of the last 3 decades, building compliance and regulation around how they interact with users on the internet and how they manage data and how they do things and what platforms they tie into. There's a whole web of difficulty. I won't say difficulty, but the need to get really creative, especially when you're entering a nascent space like this where we're all really kind of figuring it out, right? I think there's a lot of things that we're doing, kind of in DGen land that is a little bit harder for brands to just immediately adopt. And I think there's some, expectations. Just we've seen the speed and the agility of, these Web3 projects, like, just spin up and seems like overnight and be able to do all sorts of amazing things and offer, these amazing, utility components and merch and all this really, really cool stuff. And there's no infrastructure or rules or guidelines they have to follow. So I think, when brands enter the space, they're having to really kind of get comfortable with it, one, and two, like figure out how they can navigate it from a regulatory and lawful perspective, right? So I think that's like one of the bigger challenges. And as time goes on, like we'll learn to help navigate this and create pathways and come up with ways to enrich it. And I think, for me personally, that's just one of the ways. And this is new, right? Like we're all just kind of getting into this and all kind of experiencing these things, and brands are getting in. I'm really excited to see them, getting out here and trailblazing and trying this stuff, because it's not easy. I don't know how many of you folks have worked with an enterprise brand or a big brand before, but it's not very simple to get, something across the board. It takes a lot of thinking, a lot of strategizing, a lot of moving parts. So I'm really, really eager to see like where we are in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years.
Trip, I saw your hand up there.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on two things, and I think these are very true for Web3, especially in the NFT crypto space. Is I feel like, so obviously there's a lot of people in tech. Don't get me wrong, right? Don't get me wrong. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has a laptop or computer of some kind, but I feel like a lot of people that's in the space, it's kind of it's something you're really on top of, I mean, you're putting at least 4 days a week in just to keep up with what's going on, right? Because things move so quick, it's a very fast moving space. So like, I feel like the brands are not doing a good job of like doing traditional like ad marketing or some kind of way to get people involved, like just traditional ads, like what people are used to seeing to learn about a brand, or do some sort of unique activations. Obviously, there's a negative connotation around certain things, but I don't know. I really think about traditional ads in the sense of just finding more daily or average people, because for the most part, it's really in like certain echo chambers of like, let's say Reddit or Twitter. And then also, this is my last point, and then Kelly can speak, is giving them something to get involved, right? Giving them something. So for example, so this is more in the betting area and kind of more like gambling, but typically some places will give you a free $10 or $50 to gamble on, just if you go inside and eat, or whatever, you do something or get involved in somehow. And I feel like people, like I said earlier, they want something of value, right? Because people want a quick flip, or people want something of direct value. And if you really communicate that message, and especially explain how simple it is to give them something free that they can get value out of, for example, like a course, right? You do Rosetta Stone, and in X amount of time, you're going to learn to speak Italian or Spanish or Japanese or whatever, right? It's like, if you can really break down the core values and show them how easy it is, and really sell them whatever value you have, I just feel like there'll be a lot more success with onboarding or targeting people. Go ahead, Kaylee.
Thanks. That is where I've been trying to push like Pinterest, because so many people trust Pinterest, and 97% of the searches are unbranded, and education is always viewed on there as like facts. It's a magic site. So I think onboarding through that, because you can literally link a blog, your OpenSea, your website, your any platform, and it will grow more from Pinterest than your actual like Instagram from you posting on Instagram. It's wild. And you can post videos and tutorials and send people to your Discord. This is, I mean, Azuki has its own tag on Pinterest, so they know what they're doing, but that is where I feel like people are missing it, and they don't want to admit that Pinterest, it could be utilized. I don't know why.
I'm guilty of not wanting to really dive into the rabbit holes that Pinterest has presented me over the years. So I definitely need to re-educate myself. Garth?
Yeah, I was going to add to that. I mean, I think there's still a lot of like social platforms that, haven't really been explored as much. We've kind of defaulted to this world of like, Twitter and Discord, right? And now a little bit of Reddit. And I think as time goes on, we'll learn, different and better ways to advertise this. But I think onboarding too comes with its own challenges, right? So there's a lot of barriers to entry, in Web3 and NFTs right now, as it relates to, custodial and non-custodial wallets and getting things set up and understanding minting processes, et cetera, et cetera. So I think as we begin to, build collectively better ways to get people into a wallet and minting quicker without all of the, difficulty, but then also helping them understand, the challenges that come with custodial and non-custodial holdings. We'll see a lot more people be able to get onboarded a bit quicker in the space, and then we can start using some of these mediums that we've used before. One of the things I always say is we're in a very Web 2 space, marketing Web 3, and expect everybody to be ready and just jump right into Web 3. But, it's, you guys remember when you were there, the first time you were there, it wasn't necessarily difficult, but it wasn't easy. There was a lot to learn. And so we just got to lower these barriers of entry. And as we do that, through different applications, I see CrossMint doing some really cool things out there. Polygon's making it much easier. Obviously gas is a hell of a lot cheaper than it was a year or 2 years ago. But, there's a lot more happening now, I think, in the space that's allowing people to get onboarded quicker. And we're just going to have to keep pushing that and keep making it easier.
I wanted to pick Kaylee's brain for a minute if I can. This Pinterest thing, I think one of the questions that was asked is why is it overlooked, or why do we not want to dive in when there's clearly projects that are spending the time on it and they're successful projects, right? So the first thing in my Web 2 brain is I look at it and think, well, over 75% of, the users are women. And then on top of that, the age range, the demographics don't match what a lot of projects are doing. Or I think they're going to be doing less of it, right? But they were very heavy into hype. And, there's a lot of very intelligent women out there and Pinterest users. And for me, it's hard for me to wrap my Web 2 marketing brain around why I would dive in. Why choose Pinterest, right, as a place to devote time and energy when there's all these other places that in my Web 2 brain, marketing brain, more closely match the audience that the projects are really trying to attract, those with existing wallets. It's much harder, right, for projects to educate and onboard rather than just kind of use the existing or attract existing wallets. So Kaylee, I was just curious if you could maybe touch on that just a little bit. How does that work when you're consulting with a project about Pinterest as the right place to spend some time?
Well, I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to start. There's so many things. Okay, so in the last year, the Gen Z users of Pinterest has doubled. It's actually the demographic of male and female is getting a little more closer. And also the base of Pinterest is not for people to go to your Pinterest. It is for SEO, because you can attach so many blogs, you can attach it to your website. And if you Google something, say you were Googling a pretty red dress, a Pinterest post will come up on Google, sometimes even before a Google search. So it's free SEO, no backlinks needed, nothing. And the cool thing about pins are, instead of them lasting 2 to 3 weeks, they last up to 6 months to a year. And people, as soon as people pin them to their boards, then their audience sees it. And because they're pushing education and they're moving into Web3 areas, people are getting their information there because they trust it. And the people that are learning are, younger, but then they're teaching their older generations, and they fucking trust Pinterest. But not just for that, but the main reason I suggest Pinterest for anything is because it's free SEO, and it's it brings traffic. It's the highest converting platform because it's not a social media platform. It's actually a search engine.
And how do you sell the projects on the demographic? Because I know you're saying that it's starting, male to female user ratio is starting to match almost. So how do you sell a project on that? Is it just simply by showing them the conversions? Here's the conversion rate from Pinterest versus, other social platforms?
I usually just show them with Google. Just like I'll be like, type in something to do with Web3, and then you'll go to videos or images, and those images or videos are from Pinterest. So they're getting traffic from everywhere. And also it's a way that you can just recycle any, like, say you're on TikTok or Instagram or anything. If you just recycle all of your content, you will actually get more traffic to those sites from that content than you were going to get from the base site that you posted it on.
Not to, I don't want to hang up the whole space on this, but I'm working with a particular project right now, and I suggested this, right? And it's immediately like shot down for all the Web2 reasons. And that's why I'm pressing you on these questions too, because I got a lot of pushback. But ideally, I think projects are going to be moving into this space where they're gonna have to find new wallets, and they are going to have to educate, and they are going to have to onboard. So I really, really love this. And the fact that you're already on top of it makes, I mean, kudos to you, and like emojis of love around the room, because this is fantastic. So thank you so much for the insight you provided so far. And I hope we can connect after this.
Yes. And one last selling point is that there's 450 million active users a month, and only 51% of those are US. So the global reach is really awesome.
That is fantastic. I know I was looking into that specifically for Twitter as well. I mean, I think it's only like 19% of Twitter users are domestic to the United States. So it's pretty amazing.
That is awesome. I didn't know any of that. And you have really inspired me to really dive into Pinterest, Kaylee. So thank you. A question I have that I want to pose, and I know some more people came up, so feel free to jump in here as you see fit. You know, a lot of us, whether we're with a digital marketing agency or we're creating our own marketing agency, or maybe you're doing social for a company, and you know you are that person in the office or on the team that does have your foot in Web3, and you want to, you know, that you want to do right by your whoever you work for, and to onboard them in this space. Like, you don't want to be in the game of convincing all the time. So I guess what I'm asking is, like, what are the steps to not overwhelm, not oversell, but to take those steps, practical step to get your company or your boss or whoever on this journey to educating themselves and onboarding themselves? Not all at once.
Hey, everybody. Punter here. I'll hop in. First of all, I stumbled upon your guys' space just by, the title was great, which is onboarding brands to the blockchain. This is something that's really important to me, is how we sort of grow Web3 by bringing in like Fortune 500 brands. And, to me, this is the key to like mass adoption. And I've really been enjoying the space. I have to admit, I didn't think I would hear a lot about Pinterest in a space like this, but that opened my mind to a lot of other possibilities. Like, I think we use the term Web 3 when maybe we're really at like Web 2.5, and maybe we need to not just jump so quickly ahead and understand that the mediums, like, look, we're all in a Twitter space right now, right? And that's Web 2. So like maybe we need to like slow our roll a little bit and pump the brakes and make this just a little bit easier for people to come into. But I did want to hop up just to say, like, I really am impressed by like what Starbucks is doing with Odyssey. And I feel like, people moving to Polygon just to reduce the transaction fees and to, make things a little bit more palatable. I mean, we're all used to transacting on ETH and paying like a shit ton of gas, but obviously that's not going to work for mass adoption. So, I would just say, like, I'm encouraged by Starbucks and DraftKings and some of the larger players that are sort of stepping in. And I think we need to point to those examples if we're going to bring more people in, more big brands in.
You're absolutely right, Puncher, and thanks for hopping up. There are a lot of brands, and I'd be willing, to just pose. Please share if you guys know of anyone else that are doing it right, so we can kind of take notes. I mean, that's what this is all about, learning from each other. Yeah, Starbucks is doing it right, and I think time will tell to see who are some of the others that are doing it right. Slava, I see your hand.
Yeah, I wanted to spotlight some of the other bigger brands that I think are important to pay attention to. Besides the names that have been mentioned already, I think Meta is a good company to look at, especially with their latest Instagram announcements with Arweave and Polygon. I think that Reddit also is a great company to look at to see how they are branding the avatars and helping normies in the space to jump into crypto without really realizing they are doing so. And kind of the last company I'll shout out here, and I encourage everyone here to do their homework, do your research, look for examples of companies that have done well in the space, is NBA. NBA Top Shot was the name of the application that launched last year. It was a partnership between NBA and Dapper Labs, which co-founded CryptoKitties. They also did the Flow blockchain, as far as I remember. But nonetheless, they did very well for their drops. They allowed people to own moments or essentially videos on the blockchain, and many people weren't even aware that they were obtaining NFTs. So we do see examples of really powerful brands entering the space, and they are setting an example. And the three examples I just gave now are just a glimpse of what's to come next and what's changing.
Yeah, I think you can look at Vivi too, right? I mean, Vivi's brought the heat from Marvel to DC, tons of comic stuff. I saw they did The Labyrinth. I don't know if you guys remember that movie, but it's a super cool movie. They did some stuff with that recently, which I thought was cool. And it looks like they're talking about maybe bringing Banksy in, which would be enormous. I did see an article on that yesterday. But Vivi is very much a little bit more of an open ecosystem now. Prior to its affiliation with Immutable X and OMI and things like that, it was a little bit harder to get your assets out of it. Now you can with some KYC and paying a little bit of a fee. But if you look at a lot of the drops in Vivi, they're quite a bit smaller in some cases. Sometimes they're larger. But they process and transact a ton of NFTs or collectibles in their terms, and more so that I see in some of these platforms, and it's not as widely used. I don't feel like it's something that I got into pretty early because of the comic book scene, and did quite a bit of transactions there, and it's pretty easy. You don't have to necessarily worry about having a wallet. You don't. The only different part is like you create your currency and make gems, right? And that's how you buy stuff. But I mean, those things sell out in super, super quick, and it's really an interesting ecosystem. And I think it's one that's often overlooked when we talk about brands in the space and success. So anyone that's not checked it out, I'd definitely say take a gander.
Thanks, Garth. Devin, I see your hand. Welcome to the stage. Devin. All right. Maybe she's rugging. Oh, there you are. Or am I rugging?
I can hear you, Rob.
Oh, okay.
I'll shoot her a text and let her know.
Thanks. Yeah, Devin, maybe pop off and... Oh, okay, there she is. Web 2 problems.
I posted a recent example of onboarding from a big brand that I really like. And it was really just to have an example of how they adjusted the terminology for their audience. So I went ahead and pinned it. Rob, it's up at the top.
Perfect. I see it. Thanks so much, Lisa. And Devin, definitely jump in if you are with us. So to a lot of your points, guys, when we talk about brands being onboarded, and we talk about these colossal giants, Meta, Starbucks, which is great. And that's the kind of thing that's going to happen over time to get everyone on. I can't help but think of every time I go into my supermarket or, the corner gas station or to the mom and pop deli, like I'm just a strategist ideation all the time. And I think about the smaller communities, the smaller projects, that's the implications for what having a token or NFT can do for them. So, one thing that a lot of the companies that were mentioned before uh, do to cut the friction is to not need a wallet, to be able to play with a credit card. So I'm curious, maybe Garth or Trip or anybody in this arena has any ideas for other ways to kind of cut the friction that can help, just that process.
Yeah, I can add some insight there. I mean, definitely I've used credit cards in the past for minting, and I think that's certainly a way to reduce some friction, right? Like, you still have to have a wallet, but you can still purchase and claim the NFT and then actually claim it with your wallet later.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
Yeah, which has been done before. But no, I mean, it's a valid point, right? It's like, you see MoonPay pretty active inside of OpenSea, and MoonPay has got, their ability to process credit cards. You've got CrossMint, which is another great team. They do a ton of, very easy to implement payment rails for credit card transactions on projects, and they've really kind of mastered it in the sense that you can copy and paste a line of code into your minting website to offer that to your community, which I think is huge. Another thing they're doing is really, really cool. It came out in August, is the minting API. So what this allows you to do is basically mint an API or mint an NFT to an email address that may not even have a wallet. And what it does is it mints that NFT, opens up a wallet for them, drops the NFT in that wallet, and it's all done on Polygon. So it's transaction is pretty low in terms of cost. And I think that's one of the easiest ways, because we all know how to work email, right? We've all been doing it for a really long time. And that's a really cool process, because once you claim the NFT, all you do is just pop over to CrossMint, plop your email address in, open your wallet, bam, there it is. If you so choose to move that out of that wallet and move it into, your MetaMask or something like that, or a Trust wallet or what have you, you can totally do it. Very easy to do. In fact, it's right there as soon as you log in. So that's cool if you guys haven't seen that. I think another thing to look at too are things like Rainbow Wallet, right? Like, Rainbow is very, very easy to set up. It uses, doesn't require you to create keys or anything like that to, protect your wallet. And that's kind of scary if you're going to be a very, very active trader. But if you're just, kind of casually picking up NFTs here and there, Rainbow, you can get in just a few minutes, right? There's no saving or scrawling your seed phrase into the bottom of your table or into a steel plate and hiding it somewhere in your house. That's a big thing, right? Like, that's going to help a lot of people get into the ecosystem a lot faster. And to someone else's point earlier, and to the Penn tweet, you look at brands starting to use the word collectible versus NFT. Say the word NFT in public and see what happens to you. Like, people either glaze over or look at you like you're a fucking alien.
Such a good point.
Right. And then, what Reddit did was great, right? Because they had, they have their community. They didn't focus so much on building, they focused on activating. They focused on providing value to their community first, right? Rather than extracting value from their community. And they also took the word wallet out of the picture and they called it a vault. Now, a vault means something completely different to me, being a collector. My vault's where all my grails go, right? So, if you say vault to me, it's got a different terminology or a different connotation. So, but to a normie, they're like, oh, cool. It's just like somewhere where I keep stuff. A wallet just makes it that much harder to wrap your head around the whole concept, because I just told you about an NFT. Now I'm telling you to put it in a wallet. Give me a break. That's not going to work. So collectible, vault, terminology matters here. And as brands and as we get better at explaining it, it'll be a lot easier to get people on board.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, NFT has become this kind of dirty word. Very good point. Devin, are you with us? And then Trip and Slava.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome. Thanks.
Thank you. So I actually, part of what I wanted to say was just to reiterate kind of what Lava and previous speaker just mentioned. There's a lot of talk about how we phrase things and how we talk about things. And, digital collectibles works in a lot of instances, but when we're moving into other industries and use cases, digital collectibles isn't, isn't going to be applicable or the right language. But we do have to be flexible with what we're talking about right now. Like NFTs has become so much of a dirty word. I was asked to come teach a class about NFTs and then received an email saying that the nonprofit doesn't want to be affiliated because they're concerned, especially with everything going on. So it's unfortunate, and that's going to be a lack of, accessibility for a lot of people. But I also want to talk about the companies that are marketing to the future users of Web3. Roblox is considered, a very generalized use case of the metaverse. And companies like Chipotle and Walmart and designer brands are getting into Roblox and really essentially curating their future audience by tapping into these kids who are already in the metaverse and getting them ready for when they are going to be the people buying or, talking to their parents about it. And there was more that I was going to say, but my own child just came in, and so I lost the thought. I'm sorry.
You're good. It happens to me every hour. Trip?
I don't think he knows his mic is on. I just texted him.
All right, cool. Yeah, so a couple things. I actually got to go, but I just want to say a couple things. Yeah, so basically, I think one of the cooler activations that I learned, this is through Twitter. I'm not an Elon Musk fanboy, but I did think it was cool when he said that he was going to accept Teslas with, like, for example, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, right? I feel like bigger platforms like social media, I think integrating some sort of form to do transactions internally. I know it could be a mess when, social media platforms try to be like everything in one, but, they try to have the most important things. So I think exchanges and stuff like that, figuring out ways to do credit cards, the most simple way, the least, easy transactions with the least amount of friction. So I think ways they can activate stuff with credit cards. And also to who spoke before about the Polygon email. My girlfriend actually works for a county library here in Las Vegas, and because she's an employee, she got in an email a Polygon NFT or NFT through Polygon. And it was an email thing. She'd have to click on it to collect it, and it's pretty cool. So, and then also I really do agree on like terminology. I think terminology is really important, and I don't think the current stuff is working, and some stuff is already tainted. So I think we really need to be flexible on new words that just will grab people's attention, because the current keywords are not working, right? They're not working, so we need to try something different for targeting a new audience, or at least bringing in people that are more interested. And then also my last thing is I learned about this through the whole XTF stuff, is the proof of reserves. I think proof of reserves is like super important, and whatever you're saying, you're publicly showcasing that you can back. You know what I mean? Because people love to follow brands that just aren't able to back their words, and then at last moment they get burned. So some sort of proof of reserves, and I don't know how you do it, but somehow you got to show them that you have backing. You know what I mean? Or that they're going to get taken care of, I guess, at the end of the day. I think that's like really the most important thing, and knowing that they're going to have some outcome that they're happy with at least.
Of course, and that's a really good point. And thanks for sharing all that.
And
thank you for joining us. No, that's a lot to think about. And thanks for joining us. I know you said you had to head out, Trip.
Yeah.
Slava, you've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to address the question. I think it was yourself, Rob, who posed it. I'll do my best to paraphrase because it came back a couple of minutes back. I think you mentioned that what will it take to onboard the next kind of generation of normies in the space? How can brands specifically play a role to that? I think that what has been said here are definitely ways to make it easier. So a great example was already mentioned, which was leveraging infrastructure that allows brands to quickly not only create wallets on their users' behalf, but even do so in a way that's convenient by sending NFTs to their wallet and automating that process to the point where somebody has to claim to receive an NFT or to get into crypto. I think that's one great resource, and a platform for that would be Crossmint, and there are many competitors to that. Another way I think is very important here that hasn't been mentioned, but I think is quite similar, and that is to onboard the next generation of whether users or brands to drop these digital collectibles is to leverage similar architectures that accomplish what is called custodial solutions. In other words, platforms that enable brands to quickly create crypto wallets for their users' behalf and do so in a way that essentially abstracts all of the complexity of blockchain to an API or an SDK. You know, if it's a developer or a team, they simply interact with JavaScript code, and you know, JavaScript being the most prominent programming language, it's quite simply a matter of integrating a few lines of code to get brands to that level. But what it allows to do is it allows companies to achieve what would be considered, for example, passwordless logins, whereby a brand says to the community, if you want to receive a digital token or if you want to claim one, you simply need to log in with your email only. We're not talking about passwords. We're not talking about downloads. We're not talking about seed phrases. We're talking about email to check a message that you receive. Once you go into your inbox, you're now clicking through to what would be essentially access to your own crypto wallet, which has been created on the brand's behalf. And so that simplifies kind of this onboarding experience. A great platform for that, who is interested to explore that domain, is Magic. Their domain is magic.link. And you know, they make it very easy for brands to essentially create custodial wallets on their users' behalf, or in other words, get rid of the friction that is often felt when you go to create a MetaMask account.
I think you're right on it. That's what it's going to take. I'm thinking of every time I signed up for a rewards card at their cash register, right? They offered me some kind of value, or the word that we like to use, utility, on the spot. Is it worth my 30 seconds to give up my information, a minimal amount of information, to receive this right away, some extrinsic value, and now I'm onboarded. Garth.
Yeah, I was going to agree with them. Magic Link is a tremendous tool, very, very good, and I think you'll find that Crossmint uses that same workflow. So when you do use the Crossmint Mint API, which is actually just some JavaScript and a few other things that you deploy, very, very simple, very easy to work out. The way that you actually claim the email or the NFT is all the way through email, right? So like, you SSO with Google, or if you don't have Google, you can SSO with any other email, or not SSO, but verify, and basically get a verification email which signs you into your wallet, so it is completely passwordless. Which, again, to your point, I think that's the way. There's literally no user input through the whole process. It's just tapping and clicking, right? And I think that is a huge, huge benefit, and something that we all have to be more cognizant of, not only as a brand, but even if we're launching our own projects. You can't just hope brands onboard them in the millions, but like any project moving forward that doesn't use something as simple as this is just really, really missing out. Magic Link is great too. There's others out there for sure, and I think we'll see a hell of a lot more, and we'll see other sign-in processes as time goes on, making it easier and safer and easier. But yeah, Magic Link is rad. Check out Crossmint though, if you haven't. Like, you can go. In fact, Crossmint has if you go through their documentation, go look through their minting API. They actually have a tool that runs off of a Google Sheet that allows you to mint NFTs directly off of a Google Sheet. Now, you've got to find hosting for your metadata and your images, stuff like that, you have to open up a dev account, get your secret key and your API key and stuff like that. But once you plug all that into the Google Sheet, like literally you can list out, 50 email addresses, give it a description, give it a title, post your link in there for wherever your image data is hosted. You could use Cloudinary, you could use AWS, you could use IPFS, Arweave, whatever you want. And then you click mint, and literally you send everybody in that Google Sheet an NFT. It's absolutely brilliant. It's amazing. And then that same process where they open up their email, they click to claim, they click to set up a Crossman account, and then they click back into their wallet, and the NFT is right there. It's amazing.
I'm taking good notes tonight. I'm getting a lot of great nuggets. I just want to quickly reset the space. I'm Rob, Mr. Messer, hosting this on behalf of Gauss, which is a layer 1 blockchain that is curated and permissioned with a thorough vetting system designed to onboard influencers, artists, brands to a safer blockchain for the audiences. We're talking about onboarding, and I don't know too many people that want to onboard their community, their audiences, especially if we're going through this education, this onboard processing to a place where they're going to get scammed. So this is a nice alternative and a great topic, and I thank you all for being here. Punter.
Appreciate you letting me hop back in, Rob, and thanks Gauss for hosting the space. And great points from Slava and Garth. But I have a question for the panel, which is, I've always talked about NFTs as basically being like crypto derivatives, right? Especially since we price most of them in ETH or Sol or what have you, whatever, pick your crypto, your blockchain of choice. And in light of, what I'll call recent developments, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole of, the shit show that's going on with crypto right now. But a question for the panel would be like, how much do you feel like maybe we have to rebrand? Like I've heard people saying we have to get away from the term NFT. Maybe we need to talk about more like, digital collectibles or loyalty programs is a word that came up tonight. Just do you feel like that's an impediment and like a challenge that as a space we need to overcome, maybe moving away from the term NFTs? I'd be really interested to know people's thoughts.
I'll jump in first. When NFTs were introduced to me through VFriends and Gary V, and who onboarded a lot of people, and he always said something really interesting that resonated with me. During the bull of 2020, 2021, everyone thought of them as collectability with a hint of utility, but in reality, it's utility with a hint of collectability. So I think in terms of rewards cards, and to my quick little example I had before, when you're at the register, why do you sign up for a rewards membership? Well, because I want to get this discount, or I want this piece of utility, or I want this opportunity. So more real world access and value over something, a picture that just can be flipped for profit. And I saw a whole bunch of hands go up there, and I'll let the panel jump at it. Dynamic, you've been waiting. Jacob, living good.
Yeah, hey guys, can you hear me all right?
Yep, loud and clear.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think it's great because this is a really good segue into like what I raised my hand for. So I'm in various different spaces outside of the Web3 ecosystem, including the EDM sector, consumer packaged goods, social and creative. And a couple of months back, I had the opportunity to go to a networking event with a couple of old heads, two gentlemen in their 60s, late 60s, that are Web2 business owners of 40 plus years. And they looked to me, they followed me on social media for quite some time. And they were like, hey, man, like they had this self-limiting belief of, I'm not tech savvy, so I sort of get crypto a little bit, but I'm a little bit out of my element in the idea of pursuing blockchain endeavors with my business. And so, I sort of kindergartenified it for them and gave them the rundown without too many, large terms that would lose them and go over their head. But I believe that sort of one of the things that stopped sort of the overall critical mass of blockchain adoption is ease of access to information that makes it easy, right? Like sort of what is that series called? Those books that are like blank for dummies. And so, not to say people that aren't in Web3 are dummies, but you know what I mean. And so, yeah, that's sort of my take there. Is I think that a lot of these old Web2 heads that are lifelong businessmen that just have that limiting belief of I'm really not tech savvy, so I can't really get involved here. I think that will move forward as ease of access to information becomes more accessible, and yeah, that's basically my take on that. And as well, like VFriends was one of my first. I was in crypto since 2017, but VFriends was really what pointed my attention and head towards NFTs specifically. And I think a lot of people that aren't necessarily involved in trading markets, they see blood in the streets and they go, "Oh my gosh, it's all going to zero. We need to run." And that's just human psychology, right? To the untrained trader. And so, I think the strong will survive. And yeah, I love this. I love this space. Thank you, Kaylee, for the invite, and Trip. I know he's not here anymore, but shout out Trip. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you so much, Garth, and then Slava.
Yeah, I think the majority of people, like when we do get to like super mass adoption, I don't think people are really gonna care so much about, and this is like majority of people aren't gonna really care if it's on ETH or if it's on Polygon or if it's on Cardano or what have you. I think they're just gonna want to know that they have something and that it has some sort of value, or it doesn't, or it's something sentimental to them. Like it's all subjective value, right? I think we're limited in our options. We're in this gold rush period where we're very infatuated with like what the technology is and what the platform is, and some of us are maximalists to a degree. And I think that will eventually change, and a lot of people won't even know that they have an NFT. They just have this item that they could exchange, or sell or do something with to get something from it. It's like, I don't know, I kind of think about it as like, yeah, it's hard to say, because then like when you start thinking about that, like everything becomes a security, right? Like is the comic books that I have in my basement right now, or my VFriends cards that I have too many of, those can all be exchanged for value. I can sell those or I can keep them. I probably will just keep them because that's who I am. But like, I can sell that later on, and that's appealing. That's appealing to a lot of people. We just got to get them like comfortable with the digital component of it. But us as nerds have to get into this long-winded story about ETH and Vitalik and decentralization and transparency, while at the same time speaking out the other side of our mouth, begging for privacy. And so it really complicates things, and we sound like a bunch of idiots sometimes, especially to people who are just like, why can't you just email it to me? Why can't I just right click and save as, right? So there's a lot that we have to do in explaining. And to NFT, like, when I talk about my gaming computer, like I don't walk up to somebody and be like, I've got a 64 core processor, 5.2 gigahertz, 256 gigabyte SSD memory with, 600 or 260 T-flops of computing power. I say gaming PC, right? And that's the same thing that we have to do with NFTs. When we start talking all this shit, people don't care. People stop caring. They're just like, okay, bro, whatever, go on. You sound weird. So we just have to like kind of take a breath and think about what we're talking about. Hope that makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. Most people don't care about why or how the internet works. They just want their Wi-Fi to work. Slava, and then Kaylee, and then Riggs, and then Lisa.
Yeah, I want to second what Garth said, and that is that most people don't care, and the technologists, developers, practitioners in the space like myself, we do care and we want people to care, but the reality is many people want what the technology unlocks, not the technology itself. So I think that we do need better terminology, and like just a quick alpha on the concept of NFT. The token was previously called ERC 721, and for a long time that was the technical lingo that people referred to it as. And it's only a little bit less than, or a little bit more than rather, 5 years ago when somebody jumped into a technical discussion and came up with another terminology, which was non-fungible token. That was better than referring to ERC 721, but it still wasn't enough to get the normies in the space to understand what it means, because now you had to explain two things. What was fungibility, which was the first big question mark in most people's mind, including my own when I first heard about it. And the second is, well, what does it do for me? So I think that developers, technologists need to think about how people plan to use these digital collectibles or digital assets. I personally love the terminology digital asset, digital content, digital collectible more than NFT. I think that helps brands specifically to make sense of it. And then beyond that, the last thing that I'll share here is that I think brands have overly focused on digital collectibles, or what people refer to as NFTs, from a technical perspective. And that's fine, because that's where a lot of the opportunity was kind of derived from, especially with these like heavily art focused PFP type projects. But I think going forward, the story needs to change, especially for brand adoption. I think brands are looking for like one-click tokenization services. They want to take their existing content, existing assets, existing leverage, and put that on a blockchain that empowers them. They don't necessarily want to play into the hype of launching their own crypto kitties or their own crypto punks. And that's why today you see a lot of brands not taking the full risk of doing their own collection. They take a partial risk by doing a collaboration, right? Nike's, Adidas of the world, they're not doing a Nike collection. They're doing a Nike plus X plus Y collection. So those are ways to de-risk the entry point into blockchain. But I think the way to really embrace blockchain technology is to work with brands who understand technology enough that they simply implement what would be the equivalent of click this one button, put it on IPFS. Click this one button, turn it into a token. That is what's needed in this space.
Kaylee?
Yes, I completely agree. It needs to be a little more user friendly. Going back to like older people or just some people in general don't want to understand or don't know the technology. And like my point to that is like, who benefits from that? Like us being in this state, mostly women, mostly people of color, mostly like the demographic that is not a middle-aged white man. So it's just really frustrating that I feel like as a community or as this new evolution or renaissance, as people are calling it, of technology, I think that we really need to change that narrative.
Makes so much sense. All right, and thank you guys for being so patient. I love the conversation here, and I really can't thank you enough for not only being here but participating. I have Riggs, Lisa, then Lucas.
What's good, everybody? Appreciate you having me up on stage. Thanks for hosting. I actually hopped in because I saw Punter. Him and I are regulars on a few shows together, and said that you guys were having some good conversations, so I wanted to jump in. I hate following Kaylee because that was some great information and a really serious topic there that I definitely think needs more discussion. I did want to go back to Punter's question, though, of do you think, in essence, and I might butcher the question, but in essence, do we need to get rid of the term NFTs? And my question to you all is, do we remember MP3s? And this is an analogy we've always used. When MP3s came out, that term was like, ooh, I'm used to my CDs. I'm used to this or that. Well, no one uses MP3 anymore. It's just our music. It's just, I open my phone and it plays. That's where we need to get to. And it will come, but it is going to take time. And so I agree with everything you also have said, that I think we're more in that Web 2.5 standpoint. And so we may need to maybe not pump the brakes, but downshift, right? And slow down just a little bit and really begin to understand what our end goal is, what are we trying to accomplish, what lane are we going to be in, and then stay in that lane and move forward. So that's just my take, but I appreciate you having me up here. New to the show, definitely love the title of it, and wanted to come in and chop it up with you.
Thanks so much, Riggs. And yeah, thank you for echoing all of those good points. We do need to keep it simple. Like everyone said, my background is in elementary education. I was a third grade teacher, and sometimes, I have an opening to teach. I had an opening to teach, negative numbers, improper fractions, and really, elevated concepts. But that wasn't my job. Like my audience wasn't ready for that. Right. In third grade, I had to teach multiplication and adding and subtracting. So, and I think we, to many people's points that have spoken before me, we lose sight of that. And we just get so excited and we want to tell them everything when our audience isn't ready for that. So thanks for joining us, Riggs. Lisa, thanks for being so patient.
Oh, of course. No, I love hearing all these perspectives. And like you, I've taken about 10 pages of notes. I have a lot of experience with CrossMint, so I want to touch on that. But my question is, like, do we really need to call it anything? And I know that sounds a little scary and unnerving, but we can look at some true examples here, because if we just look at what I pinned the Budweiser World Cup, quote, digital collectible. But in essence, to their audience, aren't they just selling a ticket to a digital experience? So why do we have to put a name on it? And I'm just kind of begging this question to the room when we have solutions like CrossMint. Well, with CrossMint, and I think it was Garth who said it is so user friendly on the dev side, and I can attest to that. That you simply use an email address and you have access to everything that's at your fingertips, and it's not called a digital collectible there. And what I love about their model is it's like buy now, learn later. So they have all the tools and resources for someone to go ahead and feel safe clicking the button, using fiat, using a credit card, which, by the way, they have security and protections on. So if they don't like the purchase they make, they simply call their credit card company. So they have this buy now, learn later model that kind of builds that rapport and builds that trust. And then all of a sudden, they can go around puffing up their chest saying, hey, I did actually buy an NFT, and how cool am I? But really, do we need to call it that? Do we need to call it a digital collectible? Do we need to call it anything at this point at 2.5? And my answer right now is no. I don't think we have to name it anything different. I think that we can get away with simply walking people through the process. Buy now, learn later.
Sorry, Rob, I feel like a lot of it's addressed to the question that I asked. So if you don't mind,
please
just pop. Awesome replies from Slava, Riggs, Garth, Lava. Kaylee, everybody sort of put me into a different mindset. But my thing is, like, the mass media, like when you read an article about a Bored Ape, it's like this is an NFT. Like they almost want to demonize the space by calling it something or putting us in a box. I totally agree. Like ultimately, it will just be your stuff that's in your wallet, whether that's a POAP or a ticket or a rewards, a loyalty program, or a piece of art, right? That's our stuff. But, for now, I think we're slightly being demonized by, because of the negative press surrounding crypto right now and the whole FTX blow up. Let's face it, like it's the streets are mean right now. So I'm not saying like we need to personally rebrand the space and stop talking about NFTs, but I just wonder if, as we could segue away from a term like MP3s and basically just call it, Riggs made a great point, and Lava was making the same point. Like eventually it's not a thing, it's just your stuff, right? And it's how you use it. So that was really what I was getting at, and I think the panel like answered it amazingly. So thanks for that.
Lucas, you've had your hand up for a while.
Hi. Hi guys. Thank you for having me up. I'm new here. I noticed the name, the title, Onboarding Brands to the Blockchain. Really enjoyed the conversation so far. I just wanted to add a little bit of sort of my thinking. And I agree with most of what's been said. When we come to mass adoption, that whole simplicity, when it's seamless and you do not even realize that it's taken place, I think that's when the real adoption is going to kick in. Adding to the, do we really need to rebrand NFTs? To an extent, I think I do agree with that. Maybe NFT 2.0, just keeping it simple. We don't need to overcomplicate things. We may not even need to brand it, but in terms of people who are leaders in the industry, who are developers, we do need a technical term that we can all kind of agree to. But that doesn't change the, what we bring to the public. Ultimately, making it seamless, making it so that we don't look at just NFTs as artwork, proof of ownership, receipts, supply chain. The possibilities of non-fungible tokens are almost limitless. I think when we as people in the industry today kind of overcome that barrier is when we can then really push for that mass adoption. The last thing that I want to add is brands coming into the space. They need some kind of assurance in terms of security, safety. They'd love to put a lot of stuff on the blockchain, but there is elements that you want to make public and there's elements that you want to keep private. I give you a very quick example. A receipt could be an NFT. But if a receipt was to be put on a blockchain, that could be too much information for the company and the individual. But what if there was a way that certain elements could still be kept public and certain elements are made private, i.e., your information, your transactional information, but the fact that that piece of item was sold at that given time, at that given location, at that retailer could potentially be public. But again, different companies can have different sort of comfort levels, if you like, of what they want to allow to be available and what they want to hold back. This is something that we're working on. And I think hybrid blockchain is going to be what, is going to pave the way forward. I'm going to leave it there. And again, thank you very much for having me up.
Thanks so much, Lucas. Great points. And I did pin, I'm hosting this on behalf of the Gauss blockchain, which recently launched a couple weeks ago. And it is a curated blockchain. So I encourage you to check out the pinned tweet. Alex in the audience does a lot of great videos talking about, what it means to be a curated, permissioned blockchain with a thorough vetting process. And I think a lot of the comfort you were just alluding to, Lucas, is kind of eased if you are in a safe, centralized ecosystem. Garth, thank you, and then Slava.
Yeah, Lucas took the words right out of my mouth, and Lucas hit me up in the DMs. I want to check out what you're working on. Sounds cool with the hybrid model. Very, very interesting. Something I've thought about in the past a lot. But yeah, to his point, just kind of echoing what he said is I think in some cases we do need to pay mind to what we're saying. In some cases we don't. I think we need to understand our audience, and sometimes that requires some segmentation, even in marketing, right? And back in my early days of SEO, we talk a lot about like synonyms and colloquial terms and things like that, and how you could really modify your search strategy if you paid attention to that. And some people in the Midwest might call something different in the Southeast and they might call it in the North. So I think, again, it's kind of getting to really understand like who your audience, who you're marketing to, and ensuring that you're speaking, the right language to that audience type. Otherwise you're missing it. So if your intentions are to onboard a ton of newbies, then yes, of course, let's not use the terms or maybe soften those terms. But, if we're going, hardcore and we want to market to some of the earlier folks that have been in this industry or been in the space for a while, let's just, use the terms that we all know, and continue pushing down that path. I don't, somebody doesn't need to explain an NFT to me again. And I think the more we learn and the more we grow our communities and the more we have, some ability to understand that and segment appropriately through our messaging is where it'll get easier and better. But I think we're a little ways off from that.
Slava, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I wanted to quickly add some color to what Lucas said. I think it's very important. He talked about hybrid blockchain. There have been many names for this that I came across. An easy way to think of it is if you think about blockchain technologies today predominantly being used as a public blockchain, then what Lucas is describing is a private blockchain that is able to store some data privately, whether it's some customer data, whether it's some brand data. And then beyond that, brands have the option to choose where they store their data. So it's no longer a world where blockchain technology is only limited to those who want to share everything on the blockchain. That's the public blockchain domain. It's also a world where companies can be selectively kind of deciding if certain types of customer data, whether it's from healthcare domain, the fintech domain, is sensitive, then choose some aspects of that data storage on private or privacy-oriented blockchain networks. And a simple example of that is for the CEO of the firm behind Cardano, Charles Hoskinson, 2 days ago came up with an announcement that he is aiming to launch a new privacy blockchain and a token to go with that. So if anyone is interested to see what an implementation of a privacy-focused blockchain or a private blockchain may look like, check out the CEO of Cardano. And then beyond that, I'm curious to hear more from Lucas as he is claiming to build something in the hybrid domain.
Yeah, I'm happy to sort of give some more info. I don't want to sort of hijack the space. I do want to just say one other thing from a user perspective. Yes, from a corporate perspective, there's certain elements you can make available or not available, hide in a way. But also from a user perspective, the same would apply. I give you another quick scenario. This is a layer 2 solution that we're working on. Mobile phone theft is a major issue, especially with our devices now containing your digital wallets. These devices, are prime targets for people trying to flog them in the black market, just trying to get data off them. So many reasons. But the number one thing is, even good actors, if you were to find the device, you can't really return it because it's hard to track the owner. So what if there was a system that you could register your mobile phone, your laptop, your digital connected devices that could be on the blockchain? Your data is private, so you've turned off all your privacy settings or turned on, and none of your data is available apart from the device data. Now that could be used as proof of ownership. So if I was to sell it in a secondary market, they could log into the blockchain and I could turn on certain elements that they can see now that, who it belongs to when I purchased it, what the actual history is behind in the supply chain, where parts have come from. So in terms of the underlying technology, when we start bringing hybrid blockchain technology into the mix, that's when real bigger corporations can start jumping on. I think one of the biggest blockers for supply chain and companies jumping on into the blockchain space is the privacy element of, do they really want to allow every single transaction and every single deal that they make available publicly on a blockchain? Probably not. And once we start giving them the options to be able to say, okay, we're comfortable allowing our yearly financials, our quarterly numbers, or whatever it might be, available on the blockchain, verifiable. But, depending on the situation, we might have a corporate deal. Now I might want to allow some more information to be available to that one individual. Only a hybrid blockchain system is going to allow us to segue into that sort of, I'm going to call it cutting edge space. But yes, locks is something we're working on, and it's a hybrid blockchain. I'll quickly throw that in there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there's going to be, I mean, similar to just how there's, search engines, there's going to be a lot to choose from that are both front facing, a lot to think about from the back end as well. Something on my notes that I wanted to throw out earlier, but we kind of got into a great conversation is the POAP. And I would love to throw that to the panel as a means for getting people in. I mean, at first glance, I think it's a fantastic way, but I would love to just throw that concept on the table and see where you guys run with it in our last few minutes here. Slava, I saw your hand first, then Garth.
Yeah, I think POAPs are one of the best ways to onboard people who are curious about NFTs or curious about brands, but they haven't pulled the trigger in terms of monetary trigger. I think that POAPs rewards behavior, and that's where the adoption is today. It's rewarding people's participation through attendance, hence the name proof of participation. And so I think that POAPs are an excellent way to reward positive behavior, but it doesn't have to be monetary.
Amen to that. I love POAP. I love everything about POAP. I love POAP because here's my little love story about it. No, seriously, I do love POAP a lot. I think it removes a lot of the speculation from collectability, and like Slava's saying, is it really kind of focuses on that participation or attendance, and it's fun. I have a ton of POAPs. I love my POAPs. I try to get one anywhere and everywhere I can. Some people have migrated them over to mainnet and sold them and have, made some money off of them. I think that's cool too, right? But I think POAP is just one of those fixtures that'll just stay around forever. And they've also got, some pretty awesome capabilities in terms of how you deliver them, right? I mean, you can use IYK discs or you can use the POAP card, which those are both, priced at $69. Wink, wink. Why not be a meme while we're at it? Those POAP cards are super rad. I carry one. That's my business card, right? That's how I meet people. When I was in NFT NYC, I was using the QR dispenser and keeping that pulled up in my browser on my phone, and could just flash that really quick. People could scan it. And then now I have, a list of wallets and people that I've met. And I think what they're building on the social layer is something that is often overlooked too, because you get to see and learn how connected everybody can be through these POAPs. And there's a lot of discoverability there. There's a platform called WeLook that is built on top of POAP, which is really, really rad, with a couple of other features that extend, the usability of POAP, which is really, really cool. Definitely check that out if you haven't. It kind of can show you who and how you might be connected to some folks that have the same POAP. But I think CrossMint, like everybody else, there's this library of APIs hiding behind all these platforms, right, that allow you to expose certain features and functionality. I just worked on a project, can't say with who, but I use the POAP API to basically do the same process as something like CrossMint, where we were using a Web 2 form, right? Very archaic way of communicating with people, but sending that POAP to those people by email, right, and allowing them to then open up the claim process through their email, making it a little bit easier to get and earn a POAP. It doesn't necessarily fix the need for you to have a wallet to then actually mint it to your ETH or ENS address, but to solve that friction point where somebody wasn't having to tap on a card or go to scan a QR code, which to me are still incredibly high friction. Even 30 years later, I wrote an article a long time ago when QRs first came out called QR Killing Me. And it's, still being used today. And I think it's got a little bit more of a use case it does now versus 20 years ago. But, they're always innovating over there too. And I think that's what's really, really cool. And it's something that you can launch yourself. It's something that's easy, and something that's customizable and very unique to your experience. And I think they'll always kind of be, again, around and something that brands can use to onboard people, or at least, reward people in their participation. Just about every event that I'm a part of or do, I use a POAP for. And I probably issue, upwards of, thousands of POAPs a week for different projects. And I love working with the team. I love what they're about, love what they're doing, and I'll always use them.
That makes me feel better, just in terms of the way I was thinking about them. I just think they're, to Lisa's question a while back, like, what do we call them if nothing? Like, I just think POAPs are fun. Like, the stakes are low. It doesn't cost you anything, and people love, I don't remember if it was Punter or Slava that brought up the concept of receipts. I mean, they're the receipts for your experiences, and people love, we're in a day and age where people love posting pictures and looking at other pictures from events or vacations or whatever, concerts, you name it. I mean, the list goes on. And now here is an easy way for us to log and document our experiences that could be, collectibles. So I just think it makes so much sense. And you answered my question in there, Garth. Thank you. Of how brands and the companies that you deal with kind of feel about them. And I guess they're okay with it.
Yeah, and we've used them a lot, and we've used just about every distribution method, and it just depends on if we're in a Twitter space or if we're, doing an IRL event, or if we want to use a web form and certain areas of the internet. Yeah, it's super cool, and it's very accessible. I think the accessibility is the bigger thing to me. It's like, it's just easy to work with, and there's no silly smart contracts to mess around with, and trying to build rarity tables and things like that can really complicate the build of an NFT process. Like, if you're just trying to get in and expose some people, it's pretty good. There's a few others. There's one that I was playing with recently. It's called Mint Kudos. Not to take away from POAP, my love, but Mint Kudos is pretty cool. I think it's mintkudos.xyz. It's built on Polygon. Very similar. I think I discovered them through taking some courses that Alchemy, the RPC provider, was hosting on their Discord, I believe. And pretty cool little, like, more of like certificates of completion almost is the way that they use them, or like, almost like a like a certificate, like if you complete a class. Mev Army is another NFT project that uses like soulbound tokens on Polygon that they mint themselves, which is another really kind of cool way to think about how to prove participation or attendance, or some sort of achievement, some sort of badging. But using the non-transfer function in a contract, you make them soulbound, so like totally removes all speculation from the equation, makes it more about a collectible and more about an achievement than something I could flip and sell.
Man, my notes are getting long here. I know I've said that a few times, but it's because it's true. This has been so fun.
Everyone wants to like sit down and learn or anything like that. I love to teach and love to expose anybody to any of this. Like, my DMs are wide open. I'll even give you my phone number if you want it. But hit me up. Let me know. I would love to show you guys cool things, cool secrets. My kids are freaking out in the background though, so I gotta go. But
thank you.
Great conversation. Can't wait to do it again.
Thanks so much, Garth. I really appreciate it.
Indeed. Thank you.
And it's very, very mighty and Web 2 of you to offer your phone number.
Yeah, I don't care, man. Like, come eat dinner with me at my house. But thank you guys. Appreciate it. And have a wonderful night.
You as well. Lisa, I just want to quickly get this out. As we wrap up here, I just want to invite anyone for some closing comments or questions as we kind of close this out. But this has been extremely riveting and just thought pondering. And I love where you guys have taken the conversation. And that's why I love this forum. So thank you for being here. But Lisa, I'm going to jump to you first. I saw your hand.
Oh, you did? No, I was just, I was saying bye. I didn't raise my hand. I was saying bye, Garth. We were connecting about some other things regarding the Budweiser campaign. So it was really great to actually connect with him in this space. And I had met one of his colleagues at NFTLA, and we had just made that connection through this space. So just giving him a big wave goodbye. That was pretty cool.
Awesome. So again, I can't thank you guys enough. This is a conversation that, we talked about some practical things, a lot of tools, and things to research, even in the Web 2 space. So thank you, Kaylee, for bringing Pinterest up to our attention, the marketers of the world. But, I love being reminded of the little things, the simple things, keep it simple. People want to be reminded of the value that they're getting by taking these steps into this world, and just keep in mind that we don't need to tell them everything. So this has been wonderful, and there's a lot of spaces out there, I know, and I really appreciate you guys for spending your coveted time with us. I'm Rob, Mr. Messer, on behalf of Gauss, a layer 1 curated blockchain to safely onboard audiences of influencers, brands, artists to a vetted ecosystem. So I really hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I had, and I really hope to stay connected, and definitely hit me up to talk any about this stuff, because like Garth, I could talk about it all day. I'm much more of a learner, but I think I could provide value when we see fit. And then definitely, if anyone's in Miami in the next couple of weeks for any of the great events happening down there, please hit me up as well. You guys have been great. Thank you, Lisa, Slava, Lucas, Kaylee, Punter, Garth, Gary, GPJ down there, our Gauss founder. Thanks for popping in. And I wish you guys the best night, and have a wonderful, happy Thanksgiving with you and your families and friends. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Rob, for hosting. This has been fantastic. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks for coming.
Good night, all.